All right, guys, so Moody Analytics came out again and said that Boise is the #1 overvalued market in the United States. Forbes came out, between 15 to 22% of contracts written in August have fallen out of contract, according to Redfin. BRR, which is a part of Boise Regional Realtors, which is a part of the National Association of Realtors, came out and said Ada County is up 1%, almost 1% year over year, and people wanting to believe that that's good news, but really we're gonna dive deep and dissect it so that you know what it really means for you if you're looking at buying a house or selling a house. But before we dive into it, I just want to say thank you to all of our new subscribers. We're up 128%. And on top of that, thank you for those who have commented. We like to read them, even those people who commented and didn't actually watch the video. We still appreciate those comments. But with that being said, let's jump right into it. But we're gonna actually look at some of these houses listed, because some of you guys commented and you said, okay, that's new construction, that's spec homes, but what does actual resale houses look like? So this house is currently, it's what we call as a cancel listing. Somebody thought they were gonna sell it, then they didn't get the price they wanted, so they ended up canceling it. But when we look at the history of this, it was listed at $670,000. Within a couple weeks, it went pending at $670,000, but then the buyer backed out of it, kind of like what we talked about for the Forbes article of people backing out. So they backed out of it. Then they continued to have price cuts. They dropped the house all the way to $600,000, and then they got another offer on the house. Then that offer fell out for whatever reason, and then they decided to cancel it at $600,000. So you can see that they started at $670,000. Somebody was willing to pay the price of $670,000. Then they had to cancel it. That buyer canceled, whether it would be interest rates, whether it be inspection. More than likely, because of when they canceled it, it was probably when that one of the interest rate hikes happened. Then it went back on market. They couldn't get another buyer to bite until they got to $600,000. And then at that time, for whatever reason, these people either couldn't sell their house, whatever it may be, they put it back on market, and then they ended up canceling it because they couldn't get the price of $600,000. This other house, this is what we are seeing currently in this market. All right, here's another house. It started off in April of this year, so April of 2022, started at $750,000. As I go through the history of this, it dropped all the way to $650,000, and a buyer said, okay, hey, I'll go ahead and buy it. Well, for whatever reason, this buyer backed out, and then they dropped it to $600,000, finally sold at $565,000. So again, let's go back. In April, $750,000. When they finally dropped it to $650,000, somebody rose their hand and said, hey, I'll buy it. Maybe it was inspection, maybe it was interest rates, maybe it was payments. They backed out of it. Then they ended up having to drop it all the way to $565,000. In 1 year, that was almost a $200,000 price cut in order to get this house sold. One thing that I want to just bring up here is when we see a house go pending, that means that a buyer was willing to pay that price at that time. But now we're seeing that buyers aren't willing to pay that. And so we're seeing this downward curve. So although agents are saying, yes, we're up 1% year over year, don't be deceived. Let me pull up this report from BRR. BRR says, yes, we're up 1% year over year. But if we were to look at the month over month, we're actually down 4.4% from last month to this month. And keep in mind, these reports are 30 days in the rears, right? We, as agents, as analysts, we can only look back 30 days. So the data that we get today, or got yesterday, is actually 30 days old. So we don't even know what October holds for us. Obviously, we're in the middle of October, and we won't get that data until November 15th. According to this article, the Fed, not the feds, thanks for that comment clarifying that some people look at the feds as, you know, the FBI. They came out and they're saying that there's probably a 92% chance that they're gonna raise the interest rates even higher than what they're sitting at right now. They're talking about raising another 3/4 basis points, or 75 basis points, which is 3/4 of interest rate, which would push us into the 8% interest rate, which is the highest, mind you, this is the highest that it's been, that's even higher than it was in 2008 during the Great Recession. And keep in mind, we're talking about the bond rate. Those correlate directly with interest rates that that the investors are lending money on a 30-year mortgage or a 5/1 ARM. And some local lenders here are expecting that we're gonna be hitting that 8% within a month or by the end of the month. Is this a buyer's market? Is this a seller's market? Other people are saying this is supply and demand. Boise market's never going down, but we are obviously seeing the Boise market has been going down and is continually going down since May of 2022. And so here's my opinion. My opinion is, for the most part, this is a buyer's market. What do I mean by that? What is an equal market? An equal market is 100 buyers, a month. So we're seeing, okay, we're seeing about 100 sales per month. We have 600 homes on the market. So 100 divided by 6, that gives us 6 months of supply. And anything more than 6 months supply is considered a buyer's market. Anything less is considered a seller's market. But I believe that we are actually more in a buyer's market than a seller's market, even though the inventory and the absorption rate that I just explained is a little off because the interest rates are higher. Right now what we're seeing is sellers are either dropping their prices to a point where, okay, either it sells at this price or I'm not gonna sell it. So now they're not moving and now they're not buying and they've removed themselves from the market. As a matter of fact, we've seen over 800 canceled contracts or canceled listings between August 1st and now. But why I think that is because sellers they have this fear of missing out. They have, for instance, I was talking to somebody and they were talking about, I'm losing equity. I need to sell my house now. And they have this fear. And with this fear, then they're willing to give away money. One builder in our market is actually giving an extra 1.5% to an agent if they bring their buyer, and they've already dropped their prices. So they are seeing, wow, this is shifting. They don't have control. There is no bidding wars going on. They have to submit to a buyer. If one buyer is raising their hand saying, hey, I'm willing to buy your house, most of the sellers have to be willing to either give up concessions or give to what the buyer wants, because if not, they have maybe 20, 30 other homes that could fit their criteria that they could go look. And so I do believe that right now that is good news right now if you're a buyer, especially if you're taking advantage of those incentives. That's huge. And the other thing to keep in mind is if you're a buyer with a lot of cash, looking for those houses that have what we call is assumable loan. What that means is you're putting down cash and you take over this loan, maybe it's at 3.25%, 3.5%, and now you just save that percentage increase that maybe the feds are doing. Look out for those. If you're a buyer in this market with a lot of cash, that's good news for you. The other good news is if you're buying a whole house, the whole thing cash, with these prices coming down, I would suggest, unless it's the perfect house, maybe hang tight, because I do believe we're seeing home prices coming down even more and more as the months go on, especially if the feds raise their rates up to that 8%. And now let me break down why I say that is. According to BRR, in this article, we already talked about, okay, yes, they're saying we're up 1% year over year, but we're actually down 4% month over month. But they said that the median sales price for Ada County is $540,000. According to Moody's, we are still 78% higher, overvalued than what we should be at. But let me break down why that is. The median household income for Ada County is $70,000. We're just right around $70,000, give or take. In order for that person to buy a house, a lender is willing to give up to 45% of their income. So if this person had 20% down, they had no debts, and they maxed out their 45% loan, they would not even be able to qualify to buy the median home price in Ada County, which is $540,000. In order for them to be able to buy that, the home prices would have to drop to $437,000. And that's them putting 20% down, having no other debts, and maxing out to 45% of their debt to income, all being in their house loan. That's still about a 19% decrease, but as interest rates rise, that home affordability is gonna go down, which means home prices are gonna continue to go down. And so yes, we may still have a little bit of demand, which yes, we are still seeing people buy houses, but that demand is down because less people can buy the inventory that's currently on the market. And I believe and the reason why we haven't seen skyrocketing inventory in our valley is because people have decided, hey, I'm not gonna sell for a loss. I'm just gonna get a tenant in it, I'm gonna rent it out, or I'm just gonna stay put, and maybe some way down the road, we'll look about selling and moving. So what we're seeing, again, according to this graph, we have home sales are down 30% month over month and 15% down year over year, but our inventory is 93% up year over year from this time, from September of last year. And so we're seeing inventory rise. Our demand is obviously steadily going down. Buyers have more. Again, according to Forbes, 15 to 22% of home contracts have either fallen out or buyers have backed out to either go find a different house or decide not to buy at all. So to wrap all this up, the good news is if you are trying to sell your property, people are still buying houses. Downside about it is you don't want to be overpricing your house and chasing a fallen market. market. You want to make sure you get in front of that curve if you're planning on selling your house. The good news, if you're a buyer right now, you should be either offering less, asking for seller concessions.
Show me the money.
Or you can even take your time and think about, is this really the house I want to see? Or maybe I got to go look at 5 other houses in a week or in 2 weeks, and then I can decide if I want it. But don't wait too long, because as the interest rates rise, that same house may be affordable at today's interest rate, but in November, if they raise them again, that home that was affordable may not be affordable for a long time until that home price comes down to make it affordable again. So again, we are just presenting information. And I want to encourage you guys, do your own research, look at the data yourself, and don't just rely on listening to other people, including us. We actually had a couple things wrong in the last video, and you guys commented to help us sharpen and get better. So again, if we messed up, let us know. But if there's something that you liked or you want to hear more about, please leave it in a comment below, because we do read them. Some of them make us laugh, some of them we really appreciate. So please leave us that comment, and don't forget, hit that subscribe button. That really helps us on our analytics, and give us that thumbs up.